going on as much as the president might have appreciated what he was doing at the EPA. Trace?
Yeah, and you said, he's talked about his family and his family kind of being fed up with all this stuff. John Roberts, stand by, if you will. I want to just kind of get to Andy Wheeler. We were talking about him. And Andy Wheeler, for those who don't know, he is now the acting EPA director. He's a lawyer. He's a lobbyist by trade. He was, as John Roberts said, Senate confirmed. He previously served as a co-leader of the energy practice at the law firm of Fager Baker Daniels. Wheeler was previously an aide to U.S. Senator James Inhofe and a staffer on the U.S. Senate Committee on Environmental and Public Works. Wheeler is a critic of nationwide limits on greenhouse gas emissions and has supported the continued use of fossil fuels. That, of course, is a key push for this administration. Limiting greenhouse gas is not high on their agenda. And so Wheeler kind of follows in the footsteps of Scott Pruitt, who was also against greenhouse gas emissions, limiting nationwide limits to greenhouse gas emissions, and of course supported the continued use of fossil fuels. And it goes on to say that in October 2017, Wheeler was nominated by the president to become the deputy administrator. He was, as John said, he was confirmed by the Senate, so now he will be the acting EPA director, at least in the short time. And you go back to John Roberts when he was talking about the letter that Scott Pruitt gave the president and the personal note, and what we talked about when we first heard that Scott Pruitt had resigned. Yesterday afternoon, he's at the 4th of July barbecue, and by all accounts in good spirits. He's having a good time. And then he goes on this letter saying, here's the picture of the 4th of July yesterday, the event at the White House. That's Scott Pruitt with his family there. And you talk about the pressure that was put upon him. And as we talked about, somebody walked in who's a self-proclaimed liberal activist, walked into a restaurant that Scott Pruitt was eating at a few days ago and literally called him on the carpet, went after him saying, and she had her 2-year-old in her arms. And there's the video of that. So Pruitt's having lunch there, and this woman goes after him, and she goes after, very calmly, but she goes after Scott Pruitt with a list of grievances that she has against him. And the entire time, Scott Pruitt looked at her directly in the eye and never said a single word. She turned around and walked with her child to the other side of the restaurant, and Scott Pruitt got up and he walked out of the restaurant. And then you have this letter saying, with what's been put upon his daughter, some of these stories that were inaccurate against his daughter, calling her out, the scandal at the condominium in D.C., all of these travel expenses, and now you have people calling him out in restaurants, and one wonders, do you get to the point, if Mike Emanuel is still with us, is Mike still standing by there? You get to a point, Mike Emanuel, where you say enough is enough, and I think I'm just going to go back and live my life with my family.